Hello, and I was thinking, uh, I would like to come up with an idea, a concept for the perfect space exploration game, in my opinion. So, what kind of features would this space exploration game be? Or what would it be like? So my thought is, at the first thing you would need is you would play obviously as an astronaut because it takes place in space. So it should start with you on a like a NASA type planetary base with a selection of spacecraft and rovers and vehicles to take with you. You could then fly into space and fly to the moon, where you could find a larger space base from which you could access a even greater variety of vehicles and spacecraft. From there, you could decide where you want to go. So you could take any of these spacecraft, load them up with vehicles for other types of exploration missions, maybe some tools, equipment, and weapons. Then you could fly to any planet you want in the solar system and maybe even travel outside of the solar system as you go farther. So you would control the spaceship yourself and fly in any direction you want, and you could upgrade your ship as you explore. So the more you discover, the more you explore, the more funding you would receive from your space organization or from whatever government that you worked for within this game. And they would give you more resources to upgrade your ship and your vehicles and your rovers and your buggies and your drones and even your weapons, gear, and equipment. So over time, as you collect these upgrades, you would be able to increase the speed of your ship, the durability of your ship, and the travel distance of your ship. Think something like the ship upgrades in Spore. In Spore, your ship upgrades allowed you to travel farther, increase the power of your weapons, gave you more weapons, and I think there was one that increased the speed, but at the very least you could travel as farther as you upgrade your ship. The next thing you would need is in this hypothetical space game is you would need to have the option to land the spacecraft on any planet and exit the spacecraft and explore those planets on foot. Some planets would be barren and inhospitable, so you would need special types of equipment to explore that planet so you could survive within that planet. Another thing you would need to do is be able to collect some form of resources in order to survive in space. And then, as you travel, you would beam back information to your space organization. And this is how they would justify funding your trip through space. And the farther out you get, the longer it takes to send out those messages with the information. So you would have to take your time. But the amount of time it would take to travel from planet to planet would have to not be 100% realistic, because in real life it takes an extremely long time to travel from one planet to the next. Just to get to Mars from Earth, it's a long distance and takes a long time. So in the video game, you would have to be able to get there a little bit faster, or it would get boring. Maybe you could have hyperdrives or warp abilities of some sort. Maybe portals could be constructed to get you back to different planets faster. Yeah, that would be a bit unrealistic, but if you want to explore a lot of planets and a lot of space within a reasonable amount of time for the sake of gameplay and time purposes, I think that's how it should be done. Though there are some space games that have done stuff like this, and specifically Space Engineers, Empyrean Galactic Survival, and Spore. I'm sure there are others, but those are the only ones I can think of at this time. So another thing you would need in this space exploration game is the ability to encounter some form of aliens. So I would like to see planets inhabited by alien wildlife of a variety. Intelligent aliens which may or may not be hostile. And these aliens could range from advanced spacefaring civilizations, so you could encounter friendly and or hostile or neutral capital ships and exploration vessels from other alien races. You could find tribal civilizations or other primitive civilizations that are not capable of spaceflight. Maybe even land on a planet that still has a more prehistoric level civilization and see how they react to you landing there. Some of them would be scared of you. Some of them would think you were a god coming from the skies. Things like that. You might even get worshipped by some of these aliens after having discovered them. While others would turn hostile immediately. And some would just run for their lives because they wouldn't understand that you were a astronaut. So that would be an interesting option. Think about, like, it could be like Ancient Aliens, and you could be the ancient alien in a sense. Now, one game that is kind of like this, now that I think of it, is No Man's Sky, but because I haven't played that game, I can't say much about it. Now, another thing in my perfect concept, in my mind, of a space exploration game is you would need the option to build your own spacecraft. Kind of like, yeah, in Space Engineers, or like in Spore. And then when you land on planets, you would be able to deploy various vehicles and drones, moon rovers, moon buggies, drone vehicles to help you go into environments and explore environments that you would otherwise not be able to. So some planets would have volcanoes, some would have huge oceans, some would have ice, large ice fields, there could be desert planets, there could be gas giant planets which would only be explorable via drones or on some form of unmanned craft or camera systems, because you just wouldn't be able to go into those planets yourself. However, if you got far enough into the game, you would eventually unlock a spacesuit and a spacecraft that you could man and fly into the gas giant planets and see what kind of strange, interesting things you could find there. Maybe some floating aliens that live within the gas planets. And you could potentially have a system where if you do not protect yourself properly and do not interact properly with the aliens you encounter, that you could potentially spread diseases to other planets or contract alien diseases. So if you go to an alien planet and aren't wearing your proper spacesuit, you could potentially infect the alien population or the native population of alien creatures with a disease from Earth that they would not be able to combat. Or you could catch one of theirs and you would have to seek out a cure before you could continue exploring and without becoming dangerously ill and potentially dying and having to respawn at your space base as another astronaut. You would also need the option to have space stations So in between planets within your own solar system, you could have multiple space stations where you could stop, refuel your spaceship, and then continue on your journey. And as you get farther into space, you would have to collect fuel from various resources, and you might even be able to trade with aliens for fuel and other things that you could use to continue exploring. In fact, in Spore, you could do that. If your ship was running low on fuel or health or other things that you needed, you could purchase that from other aliens if they were friendly with you. And that's pretty much my idea of a perfect space game. It would need a huge variety of planets and things to explore, like a greater variety of planet types than what you see even in Star Wars. Something with more wild stuff. I'd even like to be able to encounter robotic alien races, mechanical aliens, and machines and drones. Perhaps even you could encounter ring worlds and Dyson spheres, if you know what those are, and solar arrays and all kinds of ancient technology just floating out in space. That would be awesome. And lastly, I would like to see some kind of creatures that actually survive within space, like large space creatures. Think like the alien space creature that Han Solo had to outrun in the Han Solo movie. Regardless of what you think of that movie, this creature could be something you could see within a large, grand-scale space exploration game. Something you could encounter in space that you would have to do battle with, or try to outrun. Like in the one Star Wars movie, you had the alien space worm on an asteroid or a meteor. You could encounter those type of creatures as well, and have to either fight or outrun them just like the other creature. One thing I think would be a good addition is some form of space squid, like on other space-faring creatures. So, that's basically my ideas for what would be my personal favorite type of space exploration game. It would be perfect in my eyes, so long as it wasn't an absolute buggy mess, which, let's be honest, it probably would be. But those are my ideas. And if we ever get a space game like that, I would love to play it. Alright, so those are my ideas on what my personal favorite perfect space game would be like. If you like this idea, let me know. And if you have anything that could expand upon this idea, let me know that as well. Thank you for watching. Join in the discussion. Like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day. And to infinity and beyond.